What's up, gang? Today we're going to be trying to build a PC. I'm just a little curious about the new integrated graphics inside of some of these AMD CPUs. I don't know a lot about Intel graphics, and I'm going to do a build video on this once I get the money to actually purchase it. As y'all know, I've got no subscribers. I've got no income coming in through this. I do work a full-time job. I'm just currently on short-term disability at the moment for another couple months. So I wanted to start this YouTube channel and see how it went. So we're going to be taking a look at this 8700G here. This is an 8-core processor. Core clock 4.2 gigahertz. Performance core boost clock at 5.1 gigahertz. The older generation G, like the 5600G processor, from the videos that I saw, was actually managing to get close to 60 FPS during gaming. So we're going to add that to our parts list there. And that's $276. And a little pricey there, but it is an 8-core processor, and we don't have to have a graphics card. So, hopefully we can save some money there. Hopefully this can be a budget build for somebody. Just throwing some ideas out there. Some of the newer games, I'm not sure how this thing's really going to work with some of the newer games, to be honest with y'all. As y'all know, some of the newer games require or play better with more VRAM. That's why the new graphics cards have 10 gigs, 16 gigs, up to, I think the 5090s are at 48 gigabytes of VRAM now, which is insane. Especially for $2,500. That is super expensive. $3,000 almost for a graphics card. Now, I never thought I would see the day. My first graphics card I ever bought was $250. Or, no, $200. But with tax and shipping, it was close to $250. And that didn't give me the best performance. But I could game, 50, 60 FPS in the game I wanted to play. So no issues there. Let's see, now we're going to go with motherboard here. Let's see what we got. So this should be an AM5 socket, which it should automatically give me the right socket for what I've picked as my CPU. I would assume, but we'll double check when we click on one. Considering on the side here, there's no AM socket. It's all AMD, B650, all that good stuff. So we're looking for something a little cheap. Dang, $8.99 for this Crosshair X870E Extreme. That is ridiculously expensive, guys. One here that is micro ATX. Could probably do a micro ATX build, considering there's no GPU. Which you could probably upgrade to a GPU later on if this wasn't actually, helping you out or wasn't gaming very well. So this is on Newegg for $99.99. I don't know. I don't buy a lot from Newegg anymore. I haven't bought anything from Newegg in a long time. Ever since the RTX 30 series came out, graphics cards, I've not bought anything since before then. Either because of prices, or yeah, they just didn't have any good prices. And with Amazon, you got it in 2 days, really. I mean, you could do eBay if you wanted to try and save some extra money and get a used one. But I generally don't buy new electronics used. I will generally buy them new. That way, if there is an issue, if it does show up DOA, it is not a super big deal. Usually with Amazon, they'll have you a new one sent out as soon as they get the tracking number for the one you're sending back. And then I will be building this in a separate video coming up, as like I said, as soon as I get the money. And then we'll be doing some performance benchmarks and all that good stuff. It's another micro ATX. This one is 119. This is probably the cheapest one that I've seen, other than that one at Newegg. Yeah, I'm probably gonna cut that part out. So Newegg's got this one for $140, which is terrible. But you got Amazon's got it for $199.99. Let me check out this listing real quick. Alright guys, so you can see the listing here. Normally this bad boy goes for $139.99 plus tax. So that's not too bad. With the sale at $119. We will go ahead and add this one to our list as well. And then we're going to go for cooler. I do the Hyper 212 most of the time because that one's a pretty decent cooler. I've never had any problems with it. It cools my 5900X better than a Kraken 360 AIO, if that tells you anything. I'd recommend if you're doing water cooling to do a custom loop. Unless you're not putting like more than a 6 core, possibly an 8 core in there. And then we're going to go with our RAM. I usually like G-Skill or Kingston. These Kingston Furies here, I like those. Those are pretty good. But if you're just talking budget here, you're not looking for any RGB. You're just looking for something to get the job done. Now, this is 2 times 16 gigabytes. You really don't need that much, considering the price of $165. Got an 8 gigabyte stick for $30. Speed's 5600. A little slow-ish. I believe the AMDs can now run like 6 to 8,000 pretty good from what I understand. I don't know a whole lot about DDR5. I've not built, this will be my first DDR5 system that I've ever built. So we've got, I need a 2 times 8 gigabyte here. We got this Patriot, 16 gigabyte. I don't know a lot about Patriot. But again, if you're balling on a budget and you want to make it the cheapest thing that you can, you could go with that. But I've never had any issues with Kingston or Crucial. Let's see, but at the end of the day, RAM is RAM. As long as you're not mix matching, you know, you got 2 8 gigabyte sticks of Kingston and 2 8 gigabyte sticks of Corsair or Crucial, you should be fine. Man, this is harder to find than I thought. Let me check this out. Let me see if I can. 2 times 8. There we go. Let's search that. Maybe if I refine my search, I'll find what the hell I'm looking for. Let's try that, gang. Woo! Let's go. So Newegg does have some pretty good prices on RAM. Now, these are the Patriot Vipers. Alright, so this is going to be a budget build. So we'll go with the cheapest ones here. Even though it's on Newegg and not Amazon, we'll go ahead and add the cheapest ones, but the 6,000 that speed that we can get. And then storage, we're going to do, let's go by price again. You got 128 gigabytes. I have not seen a drive that small in a very long time. For me, when I first built my first computer, my main drive was 250 gigabyte. just the base to have Windows on, and then I had a 1 terabyte storage that I kept my games and stuff on, so it would run faster. At least that's what they said, and I'm assuming that's right because I have not had any issues running 2 separate drives, one for my main Windows and one for my games. But the first time, I only had 1 drive for everything. Again, because my first build was a budget build. I spent $500. Maybe $550 around there with shipping and everything. I just wanted something to game. And it wasn't until a little bit later when I was a little bit more financially sound that I could actually afford stuff. I decided to go all out and build this monstrous beast of a PC. Well, it was a beast of a PC when I built it. It has an RTX 3080, a 5900X 12 core CPU. It's got 64 gigabytes of RAM and about 4 terabytes of hard drive space. I do have a Strix motherboard as an AM4 socket. I did have it custom water cooled at some point. I might throw a picture up here, show y'all how that looked. It looked pretty cool. But the pump, again, you get what you pay for. The pump was loud. It drove me insane. I could literally hear it in the kitchen with my bedroom door shut with the computer on. That is insanely loud. So instead of buying a name brand pump, I just put everything back on air. Now, I definitely recommend that you go with an SSD. I think spinning drives are probably phasing out except for like server stuff nowadays. Definitely would not do a spinning drive. You want to do an SSD. If you're really balling on a budget, I wouldn't do anything less than 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte. If you can really stretch it, I would go with the 1 terabyte for sure. 100%. That storage space, a terabyte sounds like a lot, but really, with the size of games these days, that will fill up super quick. And that's an issue I've had with my dad's computer. He fills up drives left and right. I've literally added so many drives to his PC since I built it for him that he now has 6 terabytes of space. And his main drive that Windows is on is 99% full, which is ridiculous. And that one is I believe it's a 1 terabyte drive. It might be a 500 gigabyte. Because I did the same thing for him. I did just a small drive for Windows, and then I put other drives in there for games. But he did not follow that rule, and he filled it all up. And then once I switched out the drives, he filled that drive up, and then I'd have to switch it again. He'd fill that one up. All with mods for his trucking game that he plays. But literally, 1 terabyte is not as much as you think it is nowadays. Alright guys, so I've landed on this Crucial P3 plus 1 terabyte drive as our drive today. Like I said, I definitely would do at least 1 terabyte if you can. Now, if you're just wanting to rush and get gaming and you only got 1 or 2 games you really want to play, 500 would work, but would get filled up pretty quickly. And for this one, we don't have to choose a video card because we're using our onboard graphics and our CPU. And then we'll choose a power supply. Now, since we don't have a graphics card, that's less power that we're having to push. You can get away with probably a 600. But for, if you ever want to upgrade and actually put a graphics card in there, you might want to go with something a little more beefy, like an 800 or 850. I just recently bought a Be Quiet Pure Power 12M 1000 watt 80 plus gold for my PC, and I love it. It freaking looks beautiful. But what I don't like is it doesn't come with 3 separate PCIe cables. It comes with the little pigtail, unfortunately. I hate that pigtail. Why even have that on there? Because that one cable can only carry 150 watts max. And my graphics card has 3 power cables. So I need 3 separate ones. But this 1000 watt doesn't even come with 3 separate PCIe cables. It only has the pigtail. And on the power supply itself, only has 2 PCIe plugins as well. So if you're wanting 3, if you end up with a graphics card that has 3, which is not relevant to the PC we're building, I just went off on a huge tangent for nothing. I just wish they'd stop doing that crap. Alright guys, so when it comes to power supplies, you really don't want to skimp out. You want to buy at least a name brand. It needs to be at least 80 plus something, whether that's 80 plus white, gold, bronze, or platinum. Platinum obviously being the best. The bronze is a little bit lower than the gold. And then white is basically just a regular efficiency rating. Some of the pre-builts come with power supplies that were questionable. I'm not sure about newer pre-builts that are being made today. I'm sure that I would hope that they've learned their lesson from that. Because given these ones with no efficiency rating, that's questionable in itself. So we gotta do a 500 watt power supply. Again, trying to keep the budget build theme going here. The cheapest one we have is a Thermaltake Smart 80 plus gold. No way, 80 plus white because it's just 80 plus. It's 500 watts. It's not modular. We'll take a look at it. It is currently on Amazon for $39.49. Now, if you have a little bit more budget, I would definitely go with a better name brand kind of, and like a 80 plus gold. Now, for me personally, I don't do anything less than 80 plus gold. I did do an 80 plus bronze for my dad's build, and it's worked out fine. He's not had any issues with it. But for me, just for the peace of mind, I prefer 80 plus gold or platinum. So today we're going to be doing this 80 plus white Thermaltake for 40 bucks. I'll add that on there. And then we have the operating system, which is super flippin' expensive. I would not recommend purchasing the operating system here. I would recommend, you can go to Microsoft, you can download the install, and then you can purchase a key for a cheaper price than this. However, if you don't know a lot about computers and you're just kind of getting into it, I may add this Windows 11 Home just so you don't have to deal with it or learn how to do it. But if you're willing to learn, you can save that $100. I obviously already have the operating system on a thumb drive, so I'm not going to be including that in today's price. Monitor is on there. I already have a monitor, but if you wanted to choose your monitor, you could throw that in on there. 1080p would be the target here. Now you can get an MSI 1080p 22-inch for 70 bucks. It is actually on MSI.com. That's cool. Right, so now we're going to choose case. Let's go double check this real quick. We do have a micro ATX motherboard. So we'll need to keep that in mind when choosing a case. Now that's something for first time builders you definitely need to pay attention to, is whether your motherboard is ATX, micro ATX, eATX because there is a difference. I built a computer. It was the second one that I built. And I skimped over the part where it said mini ATX. And then I bought a case that was actually... no, I bought an ATX motherboard. And I bought a case that was actually mini ATX. Without looking at the whole description. So when you do your motherboard, pay super close attention to that. And when you do your case, again, pay super close attention. Now, if you buy a full tower, a mini ATX will fit in there, but it'll just look weird. So we do have a mini ATX, so we're going to do... So we got this Cooler Master for $124 for the mini ATX tower. Let's see if we can find a mini that's cheaper than that. Let's do... Alright, so you got the Lanley 011 Dynamic Mini V2, which is under $100. It is $96.57. We're going to add that on there. Now, for me, I'm not going to be buying a case. I already have a case for the Mini. I'm just going to be building this and putting it on my test bench. And I'm going to run through some numbers with y'all. And we'll film building the PC. In case y'all don't know how to build one. First time people coming in, who knows? You know, I want to try and teach some people and learn myself about YouTube while I'm doing it and filming and all that good stuff. I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Obviously, I've never done this before. But we're looking at a grand total of $675 here. That's with the case, not with an operating system or a monitor. Again, I already have a monitor and the operating system. Obviously, you have peripherals and stuff. Now, just for S and G's, let's go through here. We'll throw an operating system on there again in case you don't want to go through the install process and all that good stuff. It is a little nerve-wracking installing Windows for the first time, especially if you've never done it before, because you kind of have to have two computers to do it and a thumb drive. You have to have a thumb drive. You have to go to your other computer. You got to download the software, and you got to come over here, insert it, all that good stuff. It can be a nightmare. So for the full build, just a 1080p panel, just MSI Pro for $62. Alright, so all out the door. You got your headphones and all that stuff. All that adds up quick. I would recommend just going with a keyboard and mouse. Maybe a headset if the monitor doesn't have built-in speakers. Yeah, so that may be something you want to think about. A lot of the monitors that I have had built-in speakers, or I have used a TV as a monitor just until I saved up enough money to get a monitor. But a monitor is going to be the #1 thing that really sells the gaming experience. I didn't realize it at all. I had a 60 hertz panel, and then finally when I bumped it up to the 144 hertz, low millisecond, whatever, I was like, wow, it is almost night and day. Don't skimp out on the monitor if you can't help it. But if you're just doing budget, this is what we're at. $848.57. That's with Windows, with a monitor. Not with a keyboard or mouse or headphones. A lot of that stuff you can get later, other than the keyboard, mouse, and mouse. Mouse. A lot of the other stuff you can get later, other than the keyboard or mouse. And then you also have to account for fans. You might need to add some extra fans to your case. Your case may not come with more than 1 or 2 fans. I've had that happen before as well, where I've had to buy extra fans. It's always a good idea to keep as many fans as you can for whatever the case holds. You want that airflow coming in and cooling off your components so it'll work properly and you can get all the benefits. Now, it's also one good thing to note is your prices may vary. Some of this stuff might be on sale at this current moment in time, or some of the stuff pricing may go up a little bit in the future. So if you're watching this video 2 years from now and you're like, dang, this is double what it used to cost, just know